It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, April 8th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have 2G Talks with Eddie Kweon, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is a wonderful and amazing Monday, a new week, second week of April, and it's kind of cool because every Sunday is on a perfect number, 7, 14, 21, 28, so I'm very, very excited about this month. Well, not just because of that, because it is April. I will be heading to Korea in less than 2 weeks. How are you guys doing, and how was your weekend? Put in the comments below. Love to hear what you guys have been up to. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can, and if you haven't yet, for today's video, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. Now, this week's Sunday message title says, it's kind of confusing English. Only when you take action will you receive even blessings God permitted. Sounds kind of weird, doesn't it, right? Only when you take action will you receive even blessings God permitted. All right, so that's this week's Sunday message. We'll go over that in the second segment for today. But it is a wonderful day. It is a Monday morning, and hope you guys have enjoyed your Sunday. It's the beginning of a new work week or school week, whatever it is for you guys. And I hope that we can do this much better. Okay, so I need to settle my heart. Like, remember, I'm recording this on Sunday, and it's been a pretty what's the right word here? Frustrating, a little bit frustrating for me on Sunday. Okay, and it's frustrating, but it's not even my fault, kind of thing. Like, like it's one of those days. So it's like almost everything went wrong for Sunday service for me basically, right? So I got up early and went to a cafe, 8 a.m., went to relax, prepare the podcast, get my mind in the right place so I can, like I talked about that last week, go early, settle your mind. I had my cup of coffee, everything else. And, service starts at 10, and this cafe is like 10 minutes away from church. It's very, very close. I was like, I'll leave at 9:30. I leave at 9:30, but there's a parking garage I'm in, and then you have like that machine that takes your card to pay the parking. For some reason, the machine overcharges me 5 times the price. So it's supposed to be like six ringgit, but it turned into 30, and I was like, what the heck? So for you guys out there, it's like $2 turning to $10, right? So I called for help in the security, and they're like, oh, what happened? I was like, hey, they charged me like 30 ringgit. I was like, this is crazy. And they're like, oh, please come here. We're in another building. I was like, no, I got to go to church, this, and this. And then they said, okay, park out here. I'm going to come drive up to you. So they drove up to me, and they're like, I signed up a form, and they're like, we don't know when it's going to happen. We'll call you when everything is fixed or this and that. And it was just like, all right, whatever. And it took like 20 minutes, right? Which means that by the time I left, when they kind of fixed the situation, it was already like 9:50 something. And now I know I'm going to be late. I get to church, and, I'm late. Praise has already started, okay? And, I'm kind of like discombobulated because, I had to rush here, everything else. It's kind of like everything I talked about last week is when you just kind of rush to church and you're late and you got to make sure you get there on time. I was late already. I was embarrassed a bit, and I sat down, and I couldn't really praise properly and such. And then, I was listening to translation. And the radio battery went out. I was like, what's going on? So, they had to change the battery. I'm already missing. I have no idea what they prayed for, the representative prayer or anything else like that. And finally, I got another radio. And then I couldn't hear the translation because the translation mic wasn't working. And I was like, what's going on? I never got into it was already the message time. And I had no translation. It was all in Chinese. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And then finally started to work. But we're already like maybe a quarter through the message. And then they send me the script because they wanted me to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But, I got to go over things that I missed, like the first quarter of it. So I'm going through the first quarter of it while they're still preaching, while there's translation still going on, trying to, read through it to catch up to, just so I know exactly where we are in the message. I couldn't concentrate. I was so zoned out. Basically I didn't really get fully into like the message until halfway through. And it was interesting because it made me think about like sometimes it's just not our faults. Like, it wasn't my fault that the card machine broke. It wasn't my fault, that would take this long for the security guys to come over. I didn't know I had to sign up a full sheet and all this. Like, there's so many things that it was just not taken into consideration. And, I realized that, sometimes when it comes to this history, we're going through suffering, kind of like last year, or the things that we go through sometimes in everyday life. Sometimes we go through suffering, and it's none of our fault at all. It just isn't our fault. We have good intentions. We're trying our best. We're doing this and that, but sometimes things are just not going our way. They're just not, right? And because they're not going our way, I thought to myself is like, I could have just kind of like given up a bit and just like sit there and just take notes, miss the first half of the entire message, whatever it is. But, it was just like, what? I got to go through it. I went through the message for the first half until I caught up, and then I was able to listen to the translation comfortably. But then, two other things happened. One thing happened the day before, and then one thing happened I found out right after service. And I'm just like, so many things sometimes are piling on each other. And I was like, all right, God, I'm about to record this podcast. And, I got to settle my heart, right? Because the last thing I want to do is to spill the cup of shimjung, right? Just like Peter didn't catch fish all day. And when Jesus asked to borrow his boat, he was very kind and he allowed Jesus to do it. And in the same way, too, I'm not going to spill my shimjung onto you guys. Have I already? Have I already spilled my... I'm not trying to... I didn't sound negative. I was just telling you what my situation, how frustrating it was, right? But yeah, you know what? That situation actually reminds me of what happened when I was a head leader in New York. And when I was a head leader in New York, I never missed a pre-dawn, and I was never late except for once. So what happened that one time is kind of like what happened to me at Sunday service. It was something completely out of my power. And, coming from the guy's house, riding the subway down to the church, guess what? The subway actually broke down. And we were stuck in the subway for like 15, 20 minutes before it started again. And because of that, I was late for pre-dawn. And, for me, I was like really embarrassed and upset too, because it had nothing to do with me making a mistake. It was just the subway that had problems, and it just stopped, and we waited for so long before it started again, and I was late for pre-dawn. And I felt so bad because here I am, the head leader, and I was someone who constantly educated members on about being on time. And it's the same situation with me and the Sunday service, just this past Sunday service, right? And the funny part is I just talked about being on time and being in a calm state like the week coming up to this pre-dawn service, right? I was like, go early, be on time, be in a good state to give praise or whatever it is. And then the first Sunday, this happens. And I was just like, ugh, right? Yeah, a lot of things can happen at any moment. And some things just were not to blame. We just couldn't help it, right? Sometimes, we know that there is traffic. And we understand that. So some people will come an hour and a half early, right? They'll leave 30, 40 minutes early, but you can't really help it if there's an accident all of a sudden. You can't help it if you get into an accident or anything else like that. And sometimes we just can't help it. And I think it's something that it's about us realizing our situation and realizing what the real focus should be, right? So what does that mean with the real focus? The very, very interesting thing. there was this YouTube podcast, this short I was watching, and there was this psychologist. And they were asking the psychologist, what is the biggest red flag about people in relationships, right? And the psychologist says, in externalizing, an externalizer, which means this is the person who does not have an internal locus of control, right? So for those of you guys don't know, there's like an external locus of control and internal locus of control. So internal locus of control is someone who believes that they are in control and take responsibility for all their actions. They'll take responsibility, right? Yeah, it's my fault. I'm sorry about this. Yeah, I'll do better next time. Yeah, this was a situation, but it's my fault. I should have came early, whatever it was. They believe they're in control. Now, the person who has an external locus of control is the person that blames external forces for their own circumstances, right? Of course, traffic jam is something completely different, right? Or like, it's like these machines or things happen around you. Like, yeah, but they're the ones that have to be in so much control of things outside of them that they cannot be happy. They'll be angry, anxious, upset, or whatever it is because they're blaming everything on the external forces around them, right? And this is why someone who's an externalizer are the people that try to control everything around them, okay? So these are people that don't have no internal locus of control. It's all external, which means that, it's because of you. It's because of this. Because you did this, right? So you might find those people around you. And if you're around those types of people, they're the ones that try to control you, right? They're the ones that say, don't do that. No, do it like this. Do it in this way. And if you don't do it like that, they get upset, they get mad, they get anxious, they get angry. And they're in this this perpetual futile quest of making their external reality permanently the way that they want it to be, or they're going to feel anxious or angry, right? That the only way they can regulate their own emotions is by controlling everything around them, not controlling themselves instead, right? And this is what, it's kind of interesting that I was listening to this because, I was thinking about this. It's like, yeah, even for me, these are a lot of things around me that I cannot control, but I cannot let it affect other parts of my life, right? This is something that I have to deal with, compartmentalize it, put it aside, and deal with it on the side, and you focus on the message, right? You got to do this and that. Like, it kind of reminds me, actually, of sometimes when I was a leader, or sometimes when I've seen leadership from others, I see, right? Where it turns into leadership is very, very micromanaging. Controlling, like, not only when people can do things, but also how they should do things. And I think that's really, really interesting, like how you can tell when someone has an internal or external locus of control, how much they control the external reality around them, right? Like when I look at sometimes with leadership, how we treat members. For you guys in your country, when is someone an adult? Think about this, guys. When is someone an adult? Someone is an adult, I believe in America and Canada, it's at 18, right? And then Canada, you can start drinking at 19. In America, you can start drinking at 21. I think here in Malaysia, it's 19 or 20. You're an adult, right? So here's the thing. If someone's supposed to be a responsible adult, right? And, sometimes, yeah, you might not be that responsible, but you're already 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Should leadership treat these people who are that young like they're adults, right? And 19, 20, 21, 22, that's still campus, but they're still adults. But should they be treating them like children? Tell them when. Yeah, you can do this. No, you can't do this. No, and even if you do this, you have to do it this way. Like, I think it's a very toxic trait of leadership. Like thinking that everyone needs permission from you to do anything. Like that control, that's not something that's a control on the inside. It's not an internal locus of control, but it's very external. And I do believe that leadership should have some control in certain things. Of course, right? There are certain things that they have the right to be a leader. That's why they're the leader, right? To have power of a situation, right? However, I've still seen it that even when it's right for a leader to have that power, they use that power and kind of wield it over people. And I would say that that would actually make us look more like a cult. You know what I mean? Because cults are the ones that are trying to control. Normal churches, like you go to a regular former faith church, people can come in and out of church. But here in Providence, yeah, of course we're trying to make brides of this history. But it's almost like, well, we're so exclusive. There's no freedom. Right? Like, of course, there has to be some type of control to a certain point, right? Like, like say there's a dress code. You don't want some people to too crazy, right? And of course that's going to depend on whether it's a newcomer or a new member, but it's like you can't control everything. And the more you try to control, the more it actually harms yourself and actually harms other people too. So like those are like a couple situations I was like thinking about, like, oh, that's so frustrating. Like, I can't believe this type of stuff is like, it's still happening right now at this moment kind of thing. So it's very, very, yeah. So it was a very like build up weekend where one thing happened and then another thing happened and then another thing happened. But then I realized, like, yeah, I got to have that internal locus of control. It's like, hey, I can only control what I control, right? It's not my fault. Got to push forward. Don't let it affect me in the Sunday service. Don't let it affect me when I'm dealing with other members. Don't let it affect me when this is happening here too. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Oh, guess what? I watched a movie on the weekend, and I went to watch this very spiritual movie. It's called The First Omen, right? It's one of those like horror. I think it looked like a demon possession, that type of movie kind of thing, right? So I was just like, oh, interesting, right? So I was preparing myself to watch something scary. And I don't really watch, I'm not a big fan of scary movies. I'm just not, right? So I went to watch The First Omen, and guess what, guys? It was so lame. It was so lame to the point, oh my gosh. Okay, so let me tell you how lame it was. It was so lame because it's about the Antichrist, all right? And of course, we all know that in the former faith, people believe that the Antichrist is an actual human being. Like, oh, it's a human being that will take over the world, rule the world, everyone will worship this person kind of thing, right? And this human being comes from the beast. So, spoiler alert, guys. I don't know if you're going to watch this, but it's a terrible movie. I would recommend you to pay money to not watch it. That's what I would recommend. I would recommend you, if you do actually watch the movie, buy dinner, go inside, and just talk with the person next to you. Yeah, that would be more interesting and more fun than watching this stupid movie. Okay? Let me tell you the premise. So if you guys don't want to hear this, you can just fast forward like 30 seconds, okay? This is how lame the story is, okay? So this is about the Antichrist, which comes from the beast, which comes in the Bible, which is an actual beast. It's a real beast, like an animal, dragon, human-looking thing. And this beast is controlled by the Catholic Church, and this beast mates with a human woman, then has babies with that woman, right? So then when that woman has a child, the beast then has to mate with its own offspring. So if there's a daughter, the beast will mate with its own offspring. And it mates until they have a male. And that male is going to be the Antichrist. Do you see how crazy that is? There's an actual beast like having sexual relations with a human woman, has a baby, and if it's a daughter, he mates with his own daughter, and then he has to mate with her until she has a son. And when she has a son, that son is it was so stupid. It was so lame. Like, I couldn't believe, like, is this supposed to be scary? Like, when you halfway through the movie, you're like, that's the plan? And the Catholic Church, this like the spin-off of the Catholic Church is in charge of this? I was so disappointed. It became so unscared. There's nothing scary about it. The rest of the movie was lame. I'm going to talk about this in the Rebel podcast too. Such a terrible movie. It's not even something that I wouldn't even say the name, The First Omen. I'm not going to even say it to you guys anymore. It's not even worth it. Right? The only part that I thought that was kind of inspiring, or I got something from, was that, there's nuns and monks involved. And the nuns, interestingly, when you become confirmed to be a nun, they basically go through a wedding ceremony with Jesus, which I thought was pretty inspiring. So that's about it. And that was like 14 seconds of the movie. It was ridiculous. Okay. So, So I have a question for you guys. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So like that's the movie, The First Omen. If I were to give it a score out of 10, I would give it 6.66. Why? Because that's the Satan's number. No, I'm just kidding. So I would give it, it's not even worth 6.66 to give that. It's more of give them a 3.33, right? It's that terrible. It's not even scary. It's not even worth it, guys. If you want a laugh, go and watch it to laugh, okay? So yeah, I sacrificed for you guys so you guys don't have to ever watch it. Terrible movie. It's about the Antichrist, and it's basically, I can't even explain it. Wow, is my negativity coming on to this too? No, it's not, because it really was a terrible movie. Yeah, maybe that was added on top of it, because on top of all the other things that happened, I watched a terrible bad movie. I don't know, maybe. Oh, okay, so something kind of interesting though. And this is not negative. A friend of mine texted me, and they brought up something that I never really thought about. I never really thought about this, okay? So, I don't think about this because I'm just not in that position, okay? So, when we look at what happened to us last year, it's hard for us, we would look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe she did this. I can't believe he did this kind of thing in 2023. But can we really say that we would not have done the same thing? You know what I mean? Like, if we were in that position of fame and fortune and all these other different things, would we not be tempted by it? Would we not be influenced by that too? Like, who says it can't happen to us? Right? So, my friend was telling me about this internet ministry is beginning, and what happens if you do get big? What happens if you do become famous or make a lot of money or this, and this, right? And at first it sounds ridiculous, like, please don't change. Don't do the same thing as the people in 2023. And, at first I'm just like, But then I realize it's so true. Isn't it, guys? It's so true that nobody knows until you reach that level of temptation and such, right? And I was like, man, you know what? I really need prayers too. So here I am doing this. I'm the one doing this. What do you call it? What am I talking about here? Yeah, when I'm doing internet ministry and everything else like that, God can bless it, and God may bless it too. And I thought to myself man, but what if it does grow big? And before it grows into something big, I think that I need to be prepared for it. And I definitely asking you guys for your prayers, right? Like, we look down on all the people that fell into temptation last year, but reality is none of us has actually been through this. We don't know how difficult it is to go through all those difficult things that everyone was going through last year. And we might think to ourselves, no, I'm strong enough to do this. I'm strong enough to do this. There's no way that I can, that I would be able to fall into that type of temptation, this or that, right? Like, that's what we would think. But when I really thought about it, I was like, no, it's actually very, very possible. And I can't look at it too lightly and just say, no way, it will never happen to me. When reality is, it can absolutely happen to me too, right? And it's not saying, hey, don't take any risks, guys. Don't do internet ministry. Make sure it never grows big. It's more of, be ready for it. Right? Be ready for it. We've seen what happened last year. We've seen what can happen when people have money. We see what happens when people have temptation, right? And we're like, yeah. And I thought to myself no, I can't, right now, I'm not big at all. And that's a good thing. Even before all these things are happening, I have to think to myself hey, do not put yourself into that position where you can all of a sudden, be in that same place as you were before, right? And I was like, yeah, this is something that we really, really have to think about very carefully. And I thought to myself, yeah, this is something that I have to watch out for, and it's something that I do need your prayers, right? So I am asking you guys, as you pray for internet ministry, And I know some of you guys might be like, oh, Skies talks way too much about it, but it's really about how important this is for all of us here. Like for the Friday broadcast, I'm sure a lot of you guys listen to the New Direction and such. And the New Direction is true, yeah. Even for just having internet followers, that counts. And that's something that Sunseem really, really wants. It's one of his last wishes. And if we think to ourselves like, whoa, this is something that Sunseem sees that we don't, and we have to take it seriously, right? It's coming out in the Word, right? It's coming out in educations too. But we have to be ready and prepared for it. We can't be those that just kind of let it slide and let everything just happen the way it is, right? So I really, truly, honestly hope that as we're making this internet ministry happen, let's really make it happen in an amazing and awesome way. Like really, really hope that this can happen. We can fulfill Sunseem's dreams. And I hope it's not just me, but I hope multiple people start making these channels and such also. All right, so that is what, that's one thing I was really wanting to reach out to you guys, and I really hope that it's something that that everyone can really, pray for me, pray for everyone who's doing this internet ministry, because in the future, when God blesses it, we got to be ready for it. We got to be prepared for it. We can't be those that just squander off all the things that God gives to us, but do it in the right way. Right? Do it in the right way. So I hope, one thing that I was really, really inspired by is, this internet ministry is about gathering tons of people. So the example is, imagine I get 1 million people. Now, where does it end? Of course, eventually we want to be able to connect people to the Word and such, right? But right now, it's more of in the testing stages of just trying to build it. Like, if anything else, like I was talking to the internet ministry, they're like, no, if you are building a channel, just focus on your channel. Focus on your channel, build the followers and such too. And I was like, well, when does it actually reach to evangelism? Because I thought to myself is like, because what if you all of a sudden have this channel, The Rebel Pastor, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a year later, we're like, okay, I want everyone to do Bible study. This is the Bible study I want everyone to do. And then when people find out, slander pops up and then the channel ends. And he's like, no, we don't want it like that. Make your channel yours, and do it to the best of your ability. Just try to gather a lot of people, right? And as time goes on, we have to learn how to do things in a wise way, right? Like even how to connect, right? And sometimes it may not even be me the one connecting, because I'll be focused on the channel itself. So it is something we have to look at. And we're like basically in the testing phase. And because we're in that testing phase, we're really able to, try things out. We know what the eventual goals are, but internet ministry may not see any, like the type of internet ministry that we're working on right now may not see any fruit for years. That's very possible, because they're still building and basically trying to spread the gospel and just spreading the seeds of the gospel into the world. And that in itself is a big thing that even counts, right? That what God wants at this moment. And I think it's something that we have to look at and understand more carefully as time goes on, right? And as time goes on, we're going to deal with it better. And as time goes on, we're going to be able to figure this out in a better way. And of course, it's going to lead into an online church, which I myself will not be doing, right? I either have to choose one or the other. I'm either going to do like this YouTube channel, or I'm going to do the online church. I'm not going to do both, right? It's just too much. So I hope it's something that I can really, really focus and get my mind and heart really thinking about too. Either way. Okay, so lots of things to think about, a lot of things that are going on. Thank you so much for your prayers and your support financially, spiritually, physically, mentally, by watching, subscribing, by sharing these videos. That is something I'm very, very grateful, thankful for too. Okay, so let's, before we get into the Sunday Message Word Study, let's move into the first music break of the day.
2023, we've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long. You might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones. We're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die. Till they see the light, make it bright. Till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be iller. No, I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize. I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare. Put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock. I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and know your brothers once your demons fall. Don't be deceived. Know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace. Go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, burning life. Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long. You might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones. We're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die. Till they see the light, make it bright. Till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right, so let's get into today's word study, and every Monday is the Sunday message word study. Great message, which is only when you take action will you receive even blessings God has permitted. I'm not sure, it sounds so weird to me in English. Only when you take action will you receive even blessings God permitted. Interesting title, right? So it's kind of like, if you want to receive blessings that God has permitted, you have to take action. It's like an if-then thing. If you want this, then you have to do this kind of thing. Okay? So, like I told you, it was a crazy Sunday service to me. I had to catch up reading it because of all the different technical difficulties and stuff that just happening all before Sunday service. But it started off with a dream, and I love how Sunsteam explains how these messages come about. And I think it is the absolute blueprint of how we need to live our lives with God too. It's about having experiences in your life, and not only just having these experiences, we have to be those that realize from the experiences that we're having. Understanding that, oh, why did this happen? What is God telling me through this experience, right? And I think that's something like, even I just talked about in the first segment of going through all that junk and then realizing, this is what God is trying to say to me right here, right? So Sunsteam had a dream, and he was living with someone he didn't know, right? So this person's living next to him, right? And treated him in a regular way when Sunsteam loved them. But when Sunsteam left them and did nothing, then this person would leave, right? So then Sunsteam wakes up from the dream. He goes, into pre-dawn, and he realized it's about using time, right? So he got up and started to pray in the pre-dawn time, right? And it has to do with that the theme is like, if you use something, which is like time, it becomes yours. If you don't use it, it becomes someone else's, right? So that person was indifferent to Sunsteam, just staying next to him. And when he loved it and used it, then this person would treat him regularly. But when he didn't treat this person well, this person would just go away, right? So in the same way too, it's like, yeah, that's what time is like also. Time has no like bias. Time has no, oh, I like you and I don't like this person, so I'm going to move slower for you, but I'm going to move faster for you. It doesn't do that. Time doesn't do any of those things. So what does time do? Time just works with you when you're using it, and when you don't use it, it goes to someone else. So I hope it's a very, very deep message. And coming from this dream, I think it's something that we all have to take into consideration, especially for this week, right? So when you look at blessings that, this week's message is about the blessings that God gives. Even the blessings that God has permitted you, you can't just receive them. God has given each and every one of us blessings. But if you don't enjoy it, right? If it's not something that you're like, wow, this is so amazing. I'm so thankful for this. It just disappears. Because how many times have you had something that was so good, but since you were in the wrong mindset, you can't enjoy it? Like there's one time when I was in France and I spent an extra 10 days in France. And I was in such a bad mood during that time. And even though I went to visit all these amazing places in France, I couldn't enjoy it. And it's like, yeah, even if you have this blessing, extra 10 days in France, because my heart was in the wrong place, I couldn't even enjoy 10 days in France. And what happens? It just disappeared, and I barely remember that time. But if I use it, if I say, wow, this is amazing, then it becomes such an amazing time. It's the person who takes action diligently is the one that enjoys the time a lot, right? And you get blessings from it. But if you do nothing, what happens? Then even the blessings that God has given to you, blessings that God has given to this history, it just passes by without enjoying it. Like take a look at the churches we have, right? The churches are such a great blessing that God has given to this history. But if we stop taking care of them, if we stop like doing things, like treating it valuably, then we're not going to enjoy these things, even though it's an absolute blessing. And the question something gave is, what's a true blessing? The true blessing is receiving what you want and receiving what God wants. It's two things, receiving what you want and receiving what God wants. So that's kind of what even Sunseem said about love. Love is receiving what you want, right? If you love someone, you'll give to them what they want. That's what true blessing, what true love really is. So I hope that all of us will realize the blessings, we're getting blessed here left and right. We're blessed all the time. Like even for me, I'm still thankful and grateful for that dream being fulfilled, knowing what my direction should be with internet ministry. I'm so grateful and thankful, and it's something I look at, and I know that we can only receive these things if what? If we truly believe, like this is God doing it. I believe God is doing this for me and we're taking action on it. Imagine if I was still stuck not knowing what that dream meant. I'm still stuck not knowing that I really should just be focusing and committed on internet ministry. So I'm not focused on it. So what happens? Since I'm not focused on it, I can't enjoy it. Still searching for other missions to do. And I'm stuck like God, but God's blessed me already with that mission. So I hope that, that we can be those people that realize we are getting these extra blessings. And the way the message said, the message also said that God made it so that even if we can receive the basic things in life by taking action, even if we don't believe, like, isn't that, like, that's how much God loves each person. And if one of the biggest answers is, how do you know the blessings that God has given you? How do you know? How do you know that God has blessed you? How do you know these blessings that God has given you? The only way is if you take action. When you take action, you realize. When you take action, like, this is what this means. This is what happened here. And what's going to happen is God gives more to those who take action while believing and while loving. So it's not just about us taking action, right? Just taking action is not enough. Just going through the motions is not enough. If you want the blessings, it's about believing and loving. And this is what's going to bring even more blessings to each and every one of us, right? So it's a person. What kind of people want to be? We want to be the people that don't just take action, because, action's talked a lot about in all the Sunday messages, but God's not saying just take action. He's like, no. Take action while believing. Take action while loving. And this is when you're going to see tons and tons more of the blessings each and every day, right? So I hope it's something that all of us can gain from too. It's all about the ones that take action, right? If you don't take action, you don't gain. If you take action, if you don't take action, God will take it away. You take action, God will give it to you. Now, here's something that's very interesting. There's another reason why God will take things away, why God takes blessings away. And it's when you change. When your heart changes. When your thoughts change. And then your actions change. This is when God takes your blessings away. Right? When your hearts change, your actions change, your body changes, everything changes about you. And eventually, we are no longer living, right? Our spirit has died. We become a dead person, a corpse to God. And when you're dead, what happens? Then when you are fully 100% dead, then God turns away and you need to be buried, right? And then you have, that's what happens in life. You can only take care of someone so long until they are fully dead. And once they are dead, you can't focus on them anymore. You have to still live your life. So, I think we have to really take care of our hearts. This is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 24, and it says that guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. And that was in the Message too, right? Because it depends on the condition of your heart in each moment. And we change bad or good or bad, good, bad, right? And that's why we have to live in the proper way. Like, think about me. I just went through that for Sunday service, and I was like, oh my gosh, this happened, and this happened, and then this happened. And in each moment, our hearts change to good to bad or bad to good. We're constantly changing positive or negative. And it's not about the situation around us. It's about what's inside your heart. What do you control? Do you have that internal locus of power, locus of control, or the external? And that condition of your heart, the way that you feel like, oh, who's in control, right? That I'm in control of myself. I'm responsible for myself. Then these people are the ones that, even if the environment and the atmosphere and all the different things change around us, we're still okay. We're not going to change positive or negative. Why? Because we understand what's going on, right? The condition of our hearts in every moment is going to bring us the joy, the happiness, the misery, the feeling left out, the anxiousness, depression. And it's something that we in a single moment, like in one moment, we can go from hell to heaven. In the next moment, we go from heaven to hell. And that's why making our hearts perfect and putting the words of God into action, making ourselves and praying and listening to the word is so important for each and every one of us, right? It's really important. Now, this is an interesting point that came from the Sunday messages, like when extreme times come. Extreme. If someone in a very, very extreme time changes their heart for the better, changes it according to God's will, they will become extremely beautiful and extremely strong in heart, thoughts, and actions. So get that again. In the most difficult times, in the extremes, when a person can change their heart for the better, according to God's will, in that most difficult time, this is when they become beautiful and strong in their heart, thoughts, and actions. And it's the exact same vice versa when it goes for the worse. And remember that point? I thought it was really, really shocking. Not shocking, but it makes sense too, is God knows who's going to change for the worse. God knows. God knows who's leaving Providence. But interestingly, he says he treats them even better in advance. Why? Because if he treats them even better and their hearts and actions still don't change, it's their responsibility. It's up to them. Right? God's not going to be sitting there saying that I try my best. Like, if I did a little bit better, it would have worked out. No, God will do his absolute and even more, so that in the end, it's going to be that person's responsibility. Right? In the end, when you think about it, if you take it to the most simplest point, our faiths either are made or broken according to, did we do what we're supposed to do? It's not about God. God did everything he did. The person, the man the mission sent, is not about them. It's about, did you do everything you're supposed to do? And here's that external locus of power. The message said, when you look at people whose faiths are shipwrecked or shattered, they always blame it on others. Always. But if you think about it, the responsibility is greatly on your side. You don't fall over, right? You will not fall over if you entrust your heart to God and the Lord and remain strong. Right? Whenever, this next point I like is because it has to do with lecturing. It has to do with a parable, right? Iwagachi. In the same way, when you have a great parable, it makes everything so clear. Because when you have that perfect parable, things are easy to understand, easy to realize, easy to know clearly, easy to cry, easy to everything. God and Jesus always gave parables using existing objects as the core, right? Things that people will understand right now at this time. When you're talking to Gen Z or the young generation, talk about games, talk about movies, talk about things that they'll understand really well, about animation. And we need to understand is like that the message said, the greatest weapon is the nuclear weapon, the atom bomb, which is the core. The core means the very best. We need to have the core as the parable. That's where I always teach that. That's where lecturing becomes awesome. When you have that core point, that parable that just blows their minds. They're like, oh, that's so true. People fail to realize something because they don't have the appropriate parable used to explain, right? Because a proper parable is the core. And I really enjoyed this because, Sanjeev said, hey, when you're teaching about prayer, prayer is like breathing. Where did that come from? That's episode 3 on my podcast. Prayer is breathing. So we have to understand God used parables to make people realize what God wants by using the things that each person likes. And I think that's one super important thing. When you look at fire, when you look at the food, the word is food, the word is water, the word is fire, right? It's perfect. It's perfect. Everyone understands it. And this is kind of a scary thing. What Sanjeev said is, if you fail to interpret dreams or the Bible, then Satan has control because you have no idea what it really means, and Satan can say whatever he wants. So I hope that we have to believe and we have to realize how great the time period we're living in right now. We are living together with the one sent by God. We are believing. We are taking action. The person who is the core, right? This person is the core. And when they teach with the core. We are living following God's time. We're not late. We're on time. This is such a blessing. We got to keep valuing it. Don't forget all the things that God has done for all of us, right? So I hope that we can really have that mentality and mindset. Another point I thought was really good was Genesis 3:23. The Lord God banished Adam from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken, right? So what Sanjeev explained is a person who went to work the soil they were taken from refers to a person who went back to do what they were going to do before coming to God, right? Or basically returning to their old life. And that's what Adam and Eve did. They ended up going back to their old life. And this was the perfect parable for people who left Providence. When they left Providence, they're doing generally what they wanted to do before coming to Providence. And that's what's going to happen when you leave. You go to work the old soil, right? That, of course, doesn't mean go farming, right? That's what the message is. It's not farming. It's God's expression for going to do what you wanted to do in the past. People doing things according to their own fundamental nature, right? Yeah, if you hear the stories of the people who left, they're kind of living like a regular person in the world. And of course, there are some people who are in Providence but still live kind of the physical way that they want, right? Like they lived exactly the same as they did before Providence. But we need to live differently, right? We are living in a position where we have achieved what we really wanted, in a spiritual way, right? In the spiritual way, because that's the most important one. But because it's spiritual, people can't see it. People can't feel it. So we're ignorant of it. We have to be those that fulfill God's dreams first. Remember Sunsteve's dream about being a broadcaster, and then he got kicked in the head, and then his brain split? So, it's something we have to realize is we can't do it according to our way. It has to be according to the way God wants. It's got to be the way God wants. So, the way that message that I haven't heard this verse in a long time. Matthew 7:13-14, the message said, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." And I think that's something that is very interesting. It's a very interesting verse because sometimes in Providence, we think things get too difficult and we just want to live like everyone else. We just want to get that job. We just want to get all those things, which is the broad path that everyone is thinking about. Right? And we have to be those that really understand this very, very carefully. Yeah, it looks nice to be on the broad road where everyone else in the world seems to be living better than we are, whatever it is, right? So I think it's something that we have to think about very carefully in our own thoughts. Is remember, the narrow gate, we're trying to get through the narrow gate. It's not the world. The world is doing it in the way the world wants, and the general public is doing it that way. We don't want to live that way. We want to live the narrow road. Remember that second video? I thought this was a perfect question. Sunsteve asked, God, why do you treat people so well when you know they're leaving Providence? And it's because of love. I love everyone with God's answers. I love everyone without holding back. I love everyone. And it's up to you. So the love is poured out on us, which leaves us to, hey, now what are you going to do? And it's up to you. But most of these people will turn back and they go back to their fundamental soil. They go back to the work that they've always wanted to do, making money, finding a husband or a wife or this or that. They go back to that level of living. So, we have to give up that fundamental unchanged nature that's still in our hearts and our minds. And I think it's going to work out well when we hear that Proverbs at the end, not the Proverbs, the 3 poems at the end were great. In the end, what we know, it's if you haven't fixed your fundamental nature, your fundamental heart, your fundamental thoughts, then you eventually leave. Because it's just not going to, if it's not fixed, you're stuck. Nothing matches you. Nothing fits you. So as Sunsteve said, guard your heart. Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart for it's the wellspring of life. Everything you have, everything about you flows from it. Right? Thoughts are life. People live according to their thoughts. And I hope that we can kind of separate those things in our hearts like we separate Cain's and Abel's. It's the message is even within Providence, many people have not made their hearts and actions perfect. Right? They are like what we done before it was developed. We have to be those people. I noticed this in the past, and I'm sure a lot of you guys remember this, is some people only do well when Sunsteve treats them well, and then when Sunsteve ignores them, then they're terrible. Right? I've seen that before. It's not about being treated well or not. That's not the point. We have to do well regardless, especially in this world. In this world, just like what happened to me for Sunday service, just things happen. It's just right, it's not like the machine is against me that charged me 5 times the amount. It's the machine, not the machine. Machine's not doing anything against me. Machine's not thinking oh, here's a believer in God. Let me get him. These machines are not from Satan. They're just machines, and they're going to die out, and then I just happen to be there at that time. It's like, what did Jesus say? He says, whoever puts their hand to the mill but turns back, looks back is not fit or worthy for the kingdom of heaven, right? Lot's wife in Sodom and Gomorrah died when she's looking back because she was attached to the physical things, attached to her fundamental nature in the past. That's what I got to make ourselves. Those 3 poems were awesome. That first poem was the one that really hit me, though. The first poem hit me because it's kind of that question that a lot of people do ask, right? Think about that. It's like we were able to invest our time and our money and our energy on saving lives, and we gave our hearts to them. And the poem is telling us, don't regret, don't resent anything, because they turned away from this history. And they left us in a situation where, they left us so cold and they loved someone else instead. But those people in the future, both God and the Holy Spirit will let all that blessing go to you automatically as if paying off debt. Right? So don't think that it's all wasted. All these lives that you say, but now they've left this history. Even if they leave, we're all paid back these debts. Which doesn't mean that, hey, I want you guys to, hey, can you leave Providence so I can get more blessings? I think the blessings are much, much higher if they pass and remain, right? So that was one of those questions I think some people were asking, is like, hey, all these people left, what happens there? That hard work and that love doesn't go away. You're blessed for it. And here's God saying, yeah, you're going to get paid back for it too. I also like the second dream when he's talking about having a running nose when he had this, he got inspiration for a poem, and then all of a sudden his nose starts running, this huge blob comes out of his nose, right? And it was one of the most refreshing things that he was struggling with anyways. But he's like, hey, things come in ways like, there's God's will for everything that happens in life. Don't be discouraged that life is painful and life is miserable. Don't give up either. Don't resent. Don't get angry. So, the chances are coming. We just don't know what the chance is leading towards, right? It could lead towards a realization. It could lead towards another problem being solved because of that one. Third one, I really... very, very brakes, putting on the brakes, right? Don't just step on the brakes, step on it completely so there will be no accident. There will be no problems. If there's something that you shouldn't be doing, step on that brake hard. Then it stops. So, it takes more than just regular determination. We got to stop it. Some of the things that we do should never be done. Oof, a lot of things. So, I hope that all of us too, regardless of what we're going through, all the difficulties happening, even if they're your fault or not, it's just happenstance, things happening around us, make yourselves body, heart, soul, spirit, make all of it. All right? So great Sunday message. I hope you guys enjoyed this too. Lots of things to kind of glean from it. And I hope you guys were enjoying that also. Okay. So that's today's word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Next we have 2G Talks with Eddie Kweon. We'll go into that next. But first, let's get into the last music break of the day.
Yeah. Providence represents Sierra Leone, West Africa. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come and I will live happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully the rapture's rapture, our spirit needs to rapture. We enter history together in this mission. We receive the new words, we receive the good words through the man of mission that receive the vision, that receive the wisdom and get all the passion. And get all the passion in this mission. Cause our God is the God of life, not a God of death. The providence is to make sure we represent, to become a bride who listens to the word of right. Come on, now there is the word of life. There is the word of life. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come.
The rapture's time has come. If you're still waiting, ladies, it's better hear this one. Christ has come to the man on mission. Some sound a hit, but what and take action. You living out spot, you better wake up. Wake up and take this mission and stop. Let's move, come on, let's set this fall. Cause this vision we must fulfill, say.
The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come.
Because of the rapture now we are enjoy. So never for life to be destroyed. So now I can say, so now I can say, so now I can say, we live in joy, we live in joy. So now I can say, we live in joy. So now we are raptured.
The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come.
The rapture's time has come and I will live happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully. The rapture's time has come and I will live happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully.
The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. The rapture's time has come. Cause the bridegroom has come.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment of today's Monday podcast. Of course, we have Eddie Kweon with 2G Talks. Hope you guys will enjoy this. As always, Eddie, I believe, is in America now, not in San Francisco, but he's going to visit a new law school that he might be getting into in Florida. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this. Please welcome all the way over there in Florida. This is Eddie Kweon with 2G Talks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of 2G Talks. It's been quite crazy. Like now it's been almost exactly a week since I've come back from Korea. But even in this time, I haven't been back home. And so like as soon as I got back home, there's like an event this upcoming week from Florida, University of Florida, like for the recently admitted students to come and to check out the school and to receive tours and to have their questions answered and stuff like that. So we're attending that event this upcoming week. So because of that, we had to take a flight from California here to Florida. And for those of you who aren't from the States or don't really know the geography, from California to Florida, it's like corner to corner from like the US. It's like all the way from the west side all the way east, like southeast. So it's like probably one of the furthest states that I could go to from California. And so all of this is like within the week that I came back from Korea, and it's been really amazing. We got to see some of the members here, and it's so, I think, I'm not really an advocate for traveling just for the sake of traveling. but traveling to see what God is doing in different places, or like, when you're traveling, if you have occasion to travel, like thinking and praying and asking God, like, God, show me the things that are happening in this place, that you are doing in this place. I think people who like have that mentality and who have that attitude receive so much. Like recently, like I think maybe 선생님 and maybe the Trinity have been using this word for a long time before this too. But I see the word to prosper or like prosperity a lot in the message, right? And when in Korean, like that word is hyungtong. And before, I guess like up until a couple years ago, it wasn't really a word that I paid attention to, but it talks about prosperity. And in talking about prosperity, like talks about how the people who, seek these things in the word, who seek God in the word, and who really pay attention to it, who like don't turn their attention to like negative things or to external and superfluous things, but have their hearts set on the word, they will be the ones who prosper. And so for me to like when traveling, like when we kind of adopt this mentality, and it's not like sometimes like you should we should of course earnestly be seeking this too, but even if you just have a casual occasion to go somewhere, right, because we're brides who have this mentality of wanting to know what our counterpart and what God and what the Trinity are doing, to have that mentality and to go places, it gives you something different, and God will make us prosper in a different to a different extent. Even for my dad, right? I'm not saying he's more physical, but I'll say, he's kind of like a dude in a lot of ways. So he's very rational, right? So that tends to seem a lot more physical at times, right? Whereas like I think when I look at my mom, she's more driven emotionally, and that tends to look more spiritual too. And a lot of times, if you if we like kind of develop those qualities, of course they can both be used well. But my mom, she seems more spiritual, and to some degree and to a large extent, I always thought that she was more spiritual too. But even for my dad too, like looking at it rationally, that definitely can be used for faith and for the spiritual as well, right? But yeah, so when I look at it, I really feel like. So even for my dad, I think especially when he says something related to faith, I tend to like react very differently. Because for my mom, it's like instinctive when she talks about faith, but for my dad, it's like very reasoned when he talks about it. It's not to say one is better or the other, but it just has a different impact. So one of the things that he said to me recently, because I'll be quite honest, there were quite some times he was worried about like my future, right? Like what I'm going to do, thinking about it. And he said, of course the things that you're doing for church are good, but try not to overdo it, right? And think about what's practical and realistic as well. Yeah, but he just wanted me to not extend and spend the time and the energy and the effort that I have, right? But one of the things that he said, which was shocking, especially because he's someone who says things like that, was like when I like started applying to law school and then got in, and then when he looked at all of these things, he said, like I've seen that for people who work diligently in faith, like you, that things work out well for them, that they really prosper. And so I was really shocked to hear him, say that, because like for the last few years, especially during COVID and even before, like after I graduated from college, I did spend a lot of time in the church, and for me, that was something that I'm not going to say that that's non-negotiable, but that's just like a part of life, right? It's not that I'm like, oh my God, my faith is so important, so I have to maintain it. It's like, no, like this is just an absolute and like a non-negotiable and essential part of life, right? And so when we talk about faith, like the various aspects of it, listening to the word, and taking action, we consider it to be a breath and life for our spirit, and eating food for our spirits too, right? So those things are like non-negotiable things. And so I really hope that in the same way that like we'll think of the word in that way, right, at the we received the last few Holy Spirit letters, like talking about these things, about being people who value the Word, instead of other things. And of course, those Holy Spirit letters were talking about very specific other things that people may be putting their attention towards. But instead, like, I really hope that we become people who put our mind and our focus on the Word too. And so, like, yeah, even for myself too, I'm going into law school, and it's like such a different venture than undergraduate, because like when I was heading into university the first time, when I was like 18, right, like there's so much you don't know, and you just go because that's the natural next step after high school. But this time it feels like I need to be a bit more prepared, because like I said, like, faith is non-negotiable, and it's so important, and there's so much we've been doing, and there's so much to do, right? Like so much more, like personally, that you want to do, that I want to do, and I'm not saying that in a cumbersome way. So I hope that people don't misunderstand about that, right? There's so much that I want to do, so much that each of us, we're like, sometimes we may think about it negatively in our heads or in our conversation, be like, oh my gosh, like this needs to work or that needs to work, what? But really thinking about it in a different perspective, in a positive way, it's like, wow, there's like so much that we can do, right? And so I don't want the next 3 years to be a time where I live apart from that necessarily, because I don't believe that you can. But at the same time, I do understand what my dad's practical advice is talking about, like not overextending, because like, why squander an opportunity that you do have in the short term, and something that you should be doing diligently for the couple of years that you've been assigned that task, like for law school. And so I really want to ask God, how to live these next few years well according to His will. And this isn't just a prayer for me, but it's a prayer for Providence and a prayer for everyone, right? Because it seems like more so than the past, there are more and more people trying to figure out their bearings, with respect to their personal faith and with respect to what they're doing. And, and I'll be honest, like to some degree, I think this is a little bit more prevalent. I don't want to say in the West, but a little bit more prevalent, maybe in the West, or maybe it's just among guys. I don't know, maybe it's just the demographic that I'm talking to and that I'm a part of too. And that part also makes sense too, right? Like those in the 20s and 30s and like leaving campus and career, like trying to figure it out and trying to figure out the future. Maybe this does speak to everyone, and so I really pray that each of us can figure it out according to God's will, like always consulting the Trinity in our thoughts. And because I think there's many times when we think to ourselves, when we think for ourselves, and when we think just without thinking about what the Trinity wants, and like without consulting the Word, that it leads us to conclusions that aren't like completely like what would be best. Like it like, even like if you were even to vocalize your plans to another person might be like, yeah, that doesn't seem that wise, right? So like there's certain plans that I've definitely had, and also plans that I've heard from other people. I was like, wow, yeah, that doesn't seem that wise. And of course Trinity can act according to each person's uniqueness, even in those scenarios, but still, like, we have to be people who think at all times about what the Trinity wants, right? And so I hope that each of us can do that, and that I myself can do that too. As a final note, I think one thing that I really learned from being in Korea, and then also, with respect to these kind of conversations, with respect to things that are unclear, is that we really should learn. Of course, we should learn from the Trinity, but especially for those who are young, we need to experience a lot of things, and you need to hear the stories of those who came before. And of course, we have to be discerning about what we listen to in particular. But when I was in Korea, you could sit next to this person, right? And because the church itself, like some of them are like 500 member, like 1,000 member churches, right? So you could sit next to someone and never know like anything about them or their story, but when they share their testimony of how they came to Providence and the things that they learned from some things, like, whoa, like, this person had a story like that. And most of the times the most shocking ones are the ones who have had a lot of experience, right? So even in the world too, right, they say like to speak to people who are older than you, right? And like when you look at Solomon's son in the Bible, he was led astray by the advice of just the people who was like his age, right? Versus the people who, the elders, right? Who were with Solomon, who had experienced everything, who had seen everything, and were advising him, to do what was wise, right? Instead, he, bent his head to what he thought was the wisdom that came from his friends. But instead, he should have consulted people who have that experience. And so, within, your personal lives too, I think, like when we like settle into a routine with respect to our churches, especially in the West, because our churches, many of them are quite small, right? But there might be some members in your church, like especially the older folk, who you don't really talk to, or who you only talk to in passing, or with respect to your missions and stuff like that. But many of them have these incredible and amazing testimonies. And of course, at first, even when you listen to it, like maybe the reason why you came to the status quo of not really talking to them is because, like, I don't know, like in your previous short encounters with them, you can't get to a place of understanding. But for most people, what I've seen is that if they've been around in Providence, and if they've made it to this point, they've undergone like some incredible and impossible things, and there are many things that we should learn from. Of course, we have to discern with prayer and with wisdom, but if you are really listening, right, and this isn't just like listening and saying that you're listening. If you're really listening to what they're truly saying, like sometimes you can't really feel it in the content, like you have to really unearth and unpack what it is that they may be saying beyond just the initial first thing that you hear. You may really learn something that Son has done, and that the Trinity have done in their lives, and that you really needed to hear too. And so I hope that you can take a fresh perspective with respect to the people that you may have been seeing for years, like next to you, but you never take the time to like listen to their story or anything like that, right? Because even in the world, this is something that we would do, right? Like network and learn from people and speak to them. But within Providence, we do definitely do that too, but sometimes we like avoid the people next to us, but even though they're actually more valuable than the resources that we have out in the world. And so, there's so much that can be said about that, but in order to wrap up today's segment, and to keep it tight, I'll leave you guys at that, and you guys just feel free to speak about it in the comments, or let me know if, because like I said, it felt like there's a lot more to do with that too, but I hope that we can have an active conversation, dialogue about that too, and to learn from one another. Because even in the comments when people write it, it does make me curious about each person. Like, some most of you guys from your YouTube usernames, I can't tell who certain people are, and I may have met them personally too, but from your YouTube username, I have no idea if that's the person that I've met. And so it makes me curious about people, and like wanting to know about their life, about their faith, and about the things that God has done in their life, and to learn from one another about the different things of expertise that each person has, and the different qualities and aspects of faith that they have mastered. And so with this, I really hope that we can pray for our brothers and our sisters, and that all of us can raise our level of understanding of the Word and of Sonsingnim and of our own lives as well. So with this, we'll catch you guys on another week's episode of 2G Talks.
And thank you so much, Eddie, for another wonderful segment of 2G Talks. If you guys enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a comment below for Eddie. Give him some encouragement and praise. He's doing such an amazing and awesome job, even while he's traveling with his family. All right, so there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Monday podcast. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone.